Good morning. I'm Win Thurlow, the Executive Director of MedTech, the Association for New York's biomed industry. Welcome to our third installment of the Empire State Focus 2022, a virtual tour of 5 innovation regions across New York State. Today, we turn our attention to Syracuse, Central New York, and the Mohawk Valley. We're pleased, particularly, to partner with CenterState CEO, an independent nonprofit business leadership organization with members across Central New York. CenterState CEO has a mission of creating a region where businesses thrive and all people prosper, and is focused on inclusive growth and supporting both the successes of business and the larger regional economy. We also want to thank the New York State Division of Science, Technology, and Innovation, also known as NYSTAR, for their underwriting support. We at MedTech have a mission to grow New York's life sciences industry. Our members are companies and academic institutions devoted to healthcare innovation. They create the medical devices, treatments, and pharmaceuticals relied upon by patients around the globe. If you're interested in learning more or joining MedTech, you can find us at medtech.org. And similarly, I would encourage you to wander over to CenterState CEO's website to learn more about their activities. And you can find them at centerstateceo.com. I am pleased to be joined today by Andrew Fish, the Senior Vice President of Business Development at CenterState CEO. And Andrew, along with his colleagues, will be hosting the first hour of today's 3-hour program. We'll start with Andrew and his team giving you a larger view of the region, its assets and resources. And then in our second segment, we will do a deeper dive into some particular unique life sciences resources and assets in this region. And in our third hour, you'll have an opportunity to listen to conversations with cutting-edge innovators who are growing businesses across Central New York and the Mohawk Valley. During the course of this program, if you have some questions for us, you may submit them through the chat function on the screen. And at any time, you may return back to the original agenda, which will help you navigate through the rest of today. After today's program, we will provide all of the participants with links to the recordings. And if you're interested in our future programs, you can register at our website and find the earlier recordings on our YouTube channel. All of that you can find at medtech.org. I have done too much talking already, and so I want to stop and turn things over to Andrew, who will introduce our first segment. Andrew Fish, nice to have you here. I'm going to disappear and come back at the end of this segment, and we'll chat about some questions, but take it from here.
Thank you, Win. Appreciate it. Happy to be here this morning and share a little bit with you about the Central New York and Mohawk Valley regions. As Win said, I'm Andrew Fish, Senior Vice President of Business and Economic Development. Those titles end up interchanging here. And wanted to start off a little bit by giving you a little bit of a history lesson, if you will, around the region. Syracuse, known as the Salt City, and much of my conversation, I'm going to be focusing on kind of the metropolitan area, the metropolitan statistical area. But Syracuse, known as the Salt City, is known for that because it was a booming community in part of the initial industrial revolution. Erie Canal and a salt mining industry really set this community up for a broad base of industrial workforce and growth. Reached the height of that growth in the 1950s, and in large part due to huge employers like GE and Carrier Corporation, who employed over 24,000 individuals in this community. But like many industrial communities in the Northeast, we started to see a decline as really global competitiveness started to kick in. When you started seeing offshoring of more labor-intensive activities and in really a decline in some of the industrial base that was here. But unlike our ability to shift from the salt mining to the more industrial activities in the early 1900s, our communities in Upstate across the region really started to miss out on some of the digital revolution that was happening. And as a result of that, for the next several decades, over the 70s, 80s, and 90s, we saw a decline in population. We had seen growth for the early part of the 1900s almost every year. And in the second half of the 1900s, the 20th century, you started to see a decline. More people were leaving than were naturally being born into the population. And you started to see, again, brain drain. We had three real major challenges that arose as a result of this. One, obviously, was that population decline. Two, was we started to see a lot of urban blight. You started to see abandoned buildings that were falling into disrepair. And the third issue really was a large shift towards further and further disparity in the equity that was happening in our region. Most of these jobs that left were the good paying but low barriers to entry jobs. And so you ended up having less and less opportunities for individuals to make a living wage and stay in the community here. And so, we had a problem and we were looking to solve it. And a little over a decade and a half ago, as a community, we came together around really a plan for this region to strategically think about how we set ourselves up for success and stopped the decline, if you will. We looked at what we had and we realized that we had some really outstanding assets. First of all, high quality of life, a very productive workforce still. Just because a lot of those companies left didn't mean that all of the people had left. Their skill sets and their work ethic were still here. And as a result of a lot of the growth in the early part of the 1900s, we had world-class institutions here that were churning out some of the best research and best students. We just weren't keeping them in the region. And of course, we have a large amount of invaluable natural resources. And so when we looked at those assets, we realized there was a three-legged approach that we wanted to take in this region to really set ourselves up to be a community of growth. One was to think about our industrial strengths and to think about those areas in which we had opportunity and catalyze those high growth industries. The second was we realized that in order to really take advantage of the digital revolution and Industry 4.0, we needed to create an innovation ecosystem that was not necessarily present. And we also needed to invest in placemaking. We needed to deal with some of the challenges of our poorest neighborhoods as well as our main streets and downtowns to figure out how we could really have a place where people wanted to come, where they wanted to create ownership for themselves and be a part of the workforce in the region. So on that first point, on the high growth industries, we looked around and we realized that despite GE and Carrier and some of these other organizations closing their manufacturing operations, there was still a high level of engineering talent in the region, and particularly in this data to decisions cluster. Over 8% of the employment with the average salary much higher than the region's regular average, and frankly, a large projection of growth over the next 5 years of 15,000 more jobs. And half of our patents in this region are coming from this cluster. Three areas of strength that really drive global opportunities in this area. One is 5G. We're advancing just not only citywide 5G in the city of Syracuse, but we have one of the only US-owned 5G manufacturers here in Syracuse, JMA Wireless. Talk a little bit more about their project in a second. We have a UAS unmanned aerial systems ecosystem that stretches from Syracuse to Rome with the first of its kind nation's 50-mile FAA designated test corridor. And a lot of those sensing technologies and other things that drive the 5G and the UAS also lead to opportunities in the Internet of Things and smart cities. And the city of Syracuse for the last 5 years has been focusing on an initiative called the Syracuse Surge, which is really looking at investing in infrastructure and other areas so that they can advance R&D and partnerships around using data to make better decisions and to increase the opportunities for the residents in central New York. As a result of our doubling down on some of those high growth industries, we're seeing investments across central New York and the Mohawk Valley. Wolfspeed is currently built a $1 billion carbide chip fabrication plant with over 600 jobs. Amazon is operational in one of the first of its kind warehouses, over 3.7 million square feet, with $350 million investment, over 1,500 jobs and growing. And I'd mentioned JMA Wireless invested $52 million actually in the south side of Syracuse, one of our poorest neighborhoods, and are employing over 100 residents there to really bring innovation into our communities. And SRC, a longstanding pillar of innovation in our community, is up 300 jobs at their Cicero campus. We also have a very strong defense sector in Central New York. Saab Defense is expanding, adding 50 jobs after winning a naval contract. We have a Lockheed Martin facility here that has recently landed its largest contract to date at the local plant, and $1.6 and $3 billion contracts respectively, to really grow their presence here. We talked a little bit about the high growth industries, and now I want to talk about the innovation ecosystem that's really important to grow. In Syracuse, we have the Syracuse Technology Garden. This is a incubator that has over 30,000 square feet. We are actually in the process of expanding this facility, going up 2 stories because of the success we've seen over the last few years. Currently, we have 57 members physically in the space and virtually that employ over 240 employees in Central New York. They've had equity-based follow-on investments since their engagement with the Tech Garden of $93.6 million. And frankly, the most exciting number on here is that they're at $31.5 million in annual revenues, which is really where you start seeing the tipping point in the innovation ecosystem, is when you move from equity and VC investments into revenue. And that's up $21 million from what it was just 2 years ago. Here's another telltale sign that the innovation ecosystem investments are working. In Syracuse, when we started to look at some of the challenges that we faced 10 years ago, we had a equity or a venture capital per capita. So this is the dollars available for company investments per person within the catchment area, of $27 per capita over the period of 2000 to 2010. That's abysmal. It's really not something that attracts good talent to come and start businesses here, and it really is stifling for those that are already here that are looking to grow. But with the investments in that ecosystem, with the growth that we've seen, and really with a lot of the things coming online, we have increased that. We not with personally, obviously, the businesses have increased that through their quality investments of up to $1,329 per capita over the last 10 years, which is really incredible. And if you look at the chart on the left, you'll see that growth has really been spurred in the last 5 years, significantly from 2018 through 2021. Density is another company that is in our ecosystem right now, recent graduate of the Tech Garden. They've raised over $225 million since its founding in 2014, and just earlier this year, they had a valuation of over $1 billion. So we qualify this as our first unicorn in the region coming out of our innovation ecosystem. All of this is really being spurred by outstanding research and development and tech transfer commercialization that's coming out of our academic and medical institutions here in Central New York. We've got some of the best higher education and healthcare and a growing medical R&D base, which I know is pertinent for all of you. You'll hear later from Kathy Durden from the Biotech Accelerator about the medical technology firms that are really growing and impacting the region and frankly the world, especially companies like Quadrant Biosciences, who honestly are doing some outstanding things and being recognized globally for the things that are happening right here in Central New York. And lastly, we also have in system space a program called Genius New York, which is the largest and only accelerator in the world for unmanned systems. And we've had 26 teams go through that program in its 5 years of programming. They've created 70 jobs in Central New York, and there's been $73.5 million of additional investment that these companies have raised beyond the $15 million from the accelerator's investments over those 5 years. So innovation ecosystem is growing and doing well, but the third leg of that was placemaking, as I had said, our strategy. And we're seeing that really come to fruition in a number of areas. Recently, Salt City Market opened a little over a year ago. It is an international food hub for immigrant entrepreneurs who have opened food establishments. It's a $25 million investment, a partnership with the Allen Family Foundation. and other not-for-profits here in Syracuse, and that is going very well. You're seeing a lot of great opportunities, and in the next few months, we're going to see some of these companies that were there graduate out of the food hall, the incubator there, and move into the community, and others stepping in and taking their place. We also had almost a $50 million investment through the state and the county for an amphitheater, St. Joe's Amphitheater, down on Onondaga Lake. We've seen over $1 billion of investments in our downtown in specifically living and residential. And over the last 10 years since we've started these strategies, New York State has put over $2 billion of investment into the region to support the concept of improving our neighborhoods and our communities. I had mentioned the $1 billion in downtown. That's 100% population. I'm going to round up 99.8. 100% population growth since 2010 in our downtown corridor. There's 207 units that came online last year, 404 in our pipeline, and there's been $200 million invested on South Salina Street alone in the last 9 years. And South Salina Street really is a symbol of the revitalization and taking some of that urban blight that we had seen from those years of decline as a model to say, hey, there's growth that's happening here in Central New York. So what's happening as a result is we're seeing population growth for the first time in decades, up 2.4%, which is not double-digit numbers yet, but we're heading there. And we're seeing indicators that are showing that we have an increasing prosperity along with population, which is what we're looking for. And people are moving here. We're seeing in-migration. So that population growth is not just a slowing of the out-migration. It's actually as a result of in-migration that we're seeing, particularly millennials. Talk about that in a second. But movers to Syracuse from New York City Metro were up 70% in 2020. Now, obviously, the pandemic had an impact on that, the ability for people to work remote. But we're seeing that those numbers are holding, and we're not seeing a decline now as we're slowly coming out of the pandemic. And really, it's coming from places across the country, not just New York City, but places that we have traditionally lost population to. You can see the numbers there on the right of the different major metros and the percentages of population migration growth into the central New York area. That has been really a testament to the three-legged strategy of investments. We are still a competitive cost of living community. That means that we have outstanding, or it means we have affordable housing, we have high quality education and healthcare, and all of it is still very affordable. The average cost of a home in Syracuse is just under $150,000 versus the national average, which is almost $300,000. So you can see it is still a very competitive place in terms of the cost of living. And so that is adding to, we believe, that population growth and that in-migration. We're starting to see recognition of Syracuse as a great place to live globally. We're in the top 12 up-and-coming mid-sized markets in the country. You see there the third highest among top 100 U.S. metros for attracting millennial in-migration. And the other thing here is this comfort index. 9.2 out of 10 is actually a really great score if you know anything about that comfort index. And essentially it means that this is very high quality of life for low cost of living. Again, more of the accolades, but I mentioned the in-migration from during the pandemic. And we are seeing that Syracuse was ranked the 21st best city to live in after the pandemic, and number 3 in the Northeast. So we believe that in-migration that we experienced is going to continue. And then the last thing I'll mention here is we talked a lot about the IoT and the smart cities initiatives. The city received a silver certification for their data-driven city governance, which is essentially using data to improve the lives of the city residents, which is something that's very important to the community here. We're going to continue to see opportunity for growth. I'll just say that we have an alignment of our elected officials, both federally, state, and local level, that we have not seen in a very, very long time in this community. Our president is a Syracuse alum. We have the Senate Majority Leader for the state of Chuck Schumer, who's representing the state of New York. Senator Gillibrand, who is a great supporter of tech industries and workforce-related issues. Congressman Katko has been a great supporter around the unmanned system space and the transportation issues. our new governor, Kathy Hochul. I guess we can still say new at this point, but she is a graduate of SU as well. And again, active supporter of the tech industries here. And our county executive and our mayor are both outstanding supporters of economic development and growth, and work really, really collaboratively together. And that is very valuable from a business perspective, to have a community that has alignment on these issues. We are also positioned for the future in terms of growth because we are a climate haven city. We're ranked very high as it relates to safe cities. We don't have earthquakes, wildfires, or hurricanes, and we do have a lower risk, obviously, for some forest fires and tornadoes. But we have unlimited clean, fresh water with the Great Lakes and the resources that are there for this region. We have a great electricity and natural gas system, a stable power supply, and our frequency of interruption is very low, which is very important for high-tech industry and their ability to make it, or their confidence in making investments that will be operational on an ongoing basis. And I'd mentioned the Great Lakes and our access to that. But remember, I mentioned the third issue. It wasn't just population decline and urban blight and lack of jobs. It was also the equity issue. And so as a community, we've come together around a lot of initiatives to try and move the needle on this, and we're seeing some success. We're looking at continuing programs like Work Train, which is a nationally recognized model for workforce solutions that pairs untapped labor pools and individuals that have traditionally been unemployed or underemployed and left out of the labor market with job opportunities through trainings and matchmaking. We're working on some training programs around construction and manufacturing to pull people through and into the labor force. And we're really excited about the opportunities that these programs are creating. Well over 1,000 people have been placed in these programs over the last 6 years. Everywhere there's a challenge for talent. Not only are we growing, but that also means that we have issues in filling those positions that are being added. So right now there are over 5,000 open positions listed on what's called the Good Life CNY. This is a talent attraction initiative that was launched in the region here, marketing to regions across the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic that are similar to the Syracuse metro, to try and attract individuals here, promoting our quality of life, promoting the opportunities that exist here. So far, the success of that, we've had over 300,000 visitors to the site, good mix of the folks that are going there in terms of demographics, and we're seeing the highest traction from in New York City, New York, Philly, Boston, Columbus, and Detroit, which is good because those are the markets that we're targeting. So that means that the marketing is working. Another exciting thing that's been happening is we've recently been named a finalist in the Build Back Better Regional Challenge, a collaboration across Central New York and the Mohawk Valley with over 57 public, private, not-for-profit, and academic institutions. We have 10 projects there that you can see that we're very excited about. Our second phase application could see as much as $63 million coming to the region from the federal government to support this. Again, continued growth, continued opportunity for expansion or traction projects to come to the community here. One of the things I didn't mention before, but part of the issue on the equity is back in the 50s and 60s, and at the same time as the decline of those low barrier to entry living wage jobs going away, we also made the decision to put a viaduct right through the middle of our downtown, which had a dramatic impact on some of our neighborhoods, which are now isolated and are some of the poorest neighborhoods. Very pleased to say that there's been a final environmental impact statement and a record decision released, and a $2.2 billion project will be undertaken later this year into next year to bring down that viaduct, create a community grid solution, and reconnect those neighborhoods that had been disbanded previously or isolated previously. So work again on economic growth and also the equity issues and creating inclusive growth. And our business development pipeline is very, very robust right now. I had mentioned the Amazon and the Wolfspeed projects, which were two of the largest projects that we had seen in our regions in ever, I guess I should say. Those business attraction projects happened, frankly, during the middle of the pandemic and the economic crisis. But our pipeline right now is more robust than it has ever been. In fact, we have over $60 billion in capital investments in our pipeline right now, which includes efforts around attracting additional semiconductor manufacturers like Wolfspeed to the region and to the White Pine site in Onondaga County. So that is the overview, the quick summary of all the things that we have going on here in Central New York. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper as we continue this section into specifically the opportunities around medtech, biotech, and some of the initiatives that we have going on. And to do that for this next section, I'm going to invite my colleague David Mankiewicz, who is our Senior Vice President of Research Policy and Planning, who's going to talk to you a little bit about a partnership that we've formed here in Central New York that has been successful. So thank you for your time. I'll look forward to any questions you have, answering them at the end of our presentations. And David, take it away.
Well, thank you, Andrew, and good morning to everybody. What we want to talk about for a minute is just the work we have been doing with our partners in Kingston, Ontario. And we have developed an international connection called the Kingston to Syracuse pathway. I apologize, it doesn't want to advance me. We're just fixing this right now. Let's see. There you go. Thank you, Andrew. So being where we are located in the center of the state, it makes collaboration with Kingston, Ontario relatively easy, as Kingston is only located about 2 hours via Route 81 and Highway 401 in Canada from us. The cities are a very similar size with very similar assets, although Kingston is located directly on Lake Ontario and has a strong tourism economy based on its location, its beautiful downtown, its great array of restaurants, pubs, and specialty shopping. So if you've never been to Kingston, it's a great place to visit. But what also links us is that both communities are centers of healthcare, medical education, and higher education. Kingston has multiple research institutions. The best known and largest is Queen's University, which is very similar to Syracuse University in size and programming area. They also have the Kingston Health Sciences Center, which is one of the largest medical schools in Canada, and it is a center for both patient care and medical research, which is very similar to the size of SUNY Upstate Medical University. And both communities have a base of manufacturing, agriculture, finance, and professional services, and growing technology businesses. If you look up on the screen on the right, you can see Kingston City Hall as seen from Confederation Park. And of course, below is a shot of Syracuse's Clinton Square. About 5 years ago, representatives from our counterparts in Kingston came to visit us, and the Kingston-Syracuse pathway was born from those meetings. The participants from Kingston include Queens and the Health Sciences Center, and the Kingston Economic Development Corporation, which is an equivalent of CenterState CEO as an economic development organization. On our side, the SUNY Upstate Medical University, the Central New York Biotechnology Accelerator, and CenterState are signatories to a memorandum of understanding. And in our exchanges, of course, we've also had representatives from Syracuse University and SUNY ESF, as well as the mayors of the two cities. It happens that both cities have a focus on smart city technologies, so we're beginning to share information on that as well. The purpose of the pathway is described in our Memorandum of Understanding, and the key programs that we operate are soft landing support to facilitate Central New York firms' entry into the Canadian market and for Kingston's firms interested in the U.S. market. We've also addressed linkages in some of our strategic sectors, inviting Kingston's UAS businesses to experience our test facility, and they have sought our help with finding suppliers for some of their food processors. The most developed component is the building research collaborations between the communities, and we've had exchanges of research papers and interest among the faculties of the institutions, and our friends in Kingston have helped facilitate clinical trials in Canada. We are also exploring technologies to help both countries' medical facilities address the issues with the pandemic, and we have regular meetings to discuss and collaborate on healthcare research, practice, and to identify new areas for cooperation, such as the Smart Cities IoT. Oh, sorry, it seems to have frozen again. I apologize. Yeah, it just keeps freezing. This was one of the first soft landing examples. DocuPet, which provides outsourced solutions for pet licensing, is headquartered in Kingston, and they have multiple client municipalities across Canada. They wanted to enter the U.S. market, and Syracuse, having a rather traditional municipal model for licensing, entered into a contract to take over pet licensing of its program. As a private sector entity, DocuPet offers services that most municipalities don't to pet owners, such as a network to find lost pets and discounts on pet feeds and products to incentivize more people to register their pets properly. They've used the Syracuse experience as a jumping off point in the U.S. to other communities, and as they add new clients, this is good, both good for us and in Kingston. Kingston, of course, being their corporate headquarters and Syracuse being their U.S. headquarters. So they're adding jobs in both cities as their customer base grows. And this is our Mayor Walsh with his dog at the announcement. But we ultimately believe that medical research and the exchange will lead to our greatest mutual benefit in healthcare and economics. There are joint exchanges on medical research now, and we can reference this capacity in our research grant applications as a unique collaboration that we have built. This is also beneficial, particularly to Canada, as they are grappling with problems that are linked to global warming. The incidence of Lyme disease in the United States took off about 10 years ago, and unfortunately, as the deer ticks found the Canadian environment more hospitable, they've been moving north. And so Canada is having more issues with Lyme. They can take advantage of the research and medical treatments that were developed in the United States a decade ago. Unfortunately, we believe there's going to be more problems like this to address. Another mutual benefit is entrepreneurial support. I mentioned earlier that we've invited Canadian UAS firms to take advantage of our UAS test facility between Syracuse and Rome, New York, as the Canadian firms have told us that our test facility is located closer to them and is better equipped than the Canadian counterpart. But we also encourage our entrepreneurs to take advantage of programs on both sides of the border. On the left is a picture of Costello Prosthetic Warmers, it's on the right, a Syracuse-based firm that was an MDIC graduate, and Kathy will do the next segment, will describe that in her presentation. And they received design and engineering help from a program at Queen's University. Queen's has about 25 specialty centers that they make available for our entrepreneurs. The other areas which we see ripe for future participation, I mentioned we have worked on supply chain products to help each other be more competitive for business location by citing suppliers located on both sides of the border. We are looking at expanding broadband connections between us, and we will continue to build on the health conference and smart cities technologies. We're also building a UAS test pilot flight that will fly over the border between Upstate and Queens, working out the protocol for UAS travel between the two nations. This has been a very fruitful partnership for both communities, and we look forward to expanding it. And now to talk in more detail about the work that's done at the Central New York Biotechnology Accelerator, we want to invite Ms. Kathy Durden, who is the Executive Director of the CNY Biotech Accelerator, to talk about her project.
Thanks, Dave.
It's all yours, Kathy.
All righty. Thanks, Dave. Let's see if I can share my slides. Okay, you able to see my slides? I'm hoping so. I can only see my slide screen, so I'm going to go ahead unless someone tells me otherwise. So my name is Kathy Durden, and I'm the Executive Director of the CNY Biotech Accelerator that's located in Syracuse, New York. We're operated through Upstate Medical University. We're about 52,000 square foot facility located in an opportunity zone. We license wet labs, and we provide shared equipment for our clients. We also have a collaboration lab model. It's a little bit more cost effective for those early stage companies where we want the companies to really use their funding, their time and effort towards their product development. So whatever we can do to assist with that, the collaboration lab model was one of those opportunities. We have virtual and on-site clients, and I'm going to talk about our infrastructure and our programs. First, I want to share a video.
Startup companies are starting very small and they need support. And we're able to find the support that they need. There's so much that has to be done to get a product to market. Not just wet lab space, it's getting them resources, the consultants, the advisors, the experts to get more quickly towards their market approval.
Scientists or physicians that have great ideas don't necessarily have the tool set to put together a business plan, understand the world of intellectual property. So the idea is to take people's concepts and help nurture them so that we can incubate and accelerate their success.
Kathy has developed extensive amounts of programming that help innovators and entrepreneurs figure out how they're going to establish their company and be successful. Everything from writing a business plan, obtaining external funding, to patenting their technology.
Because this incubator is associated with Upstate Medical, you have access to the core facilities, machinery that will cost you $500,000. You can just go in and use them. And it also gives you access to some of the faculty and to a web of connections that can help you build out when you're trying to figure it all out as to where you're going next.
Simply put, the BAC is a place to grow your idea and your business. And Quadrant Biosciences is a prime example of having the right partnership in place can lead to success.
The Central New York Biotech Accelerator is incredibly important to our community. Our clients are helping generate economic business development. They're hiring people, they're hiring students, they're hiring from within the community. They're generating knowledge, bringing technology out of the university. We want to be that support organization that streamlines process, finds the right fit, the right partner, that promotes clients in the best way possible.
And just to give you a quick snapshot, oops, I got to go back to my screen share. That's a quick snapshot of our current clients, both on-site and virtual. We are funded in part through the Empire State Development as a certified business incubator that supports a lot of our programs. And as such, we report to them on an annual basis. Our clients complete the ESD client impact letters. And this is what they reported from April of 2021 through March of 2022. They did pretty well, over 87 million of economic impact. And while it says 119 new jobs created, I think Quadrant Biosciences alone is now at about 300 plus. So that has changed, and they're still going strong. So talking about infrastructure, we try to be flexible, adaptive. We've turned locker rooms that were very not used very often into mini labs. So we have education space, a 250-seat TED Spec theater. We've opened that up to public use. We have a creation garage, we have meeting space, and we have wet labs. Our wet labs are very similar to academic research labs. There are fixed and movable benches, fume hoods, biosafety cabinets, natural gas. Probably most prominent is our parking lot located behind the building. We also provide shared equipment so that our clients don't have to buy large pieces of equipment such as -80 freezers. We provide dry ice. We provide spools and trays for our 3D printer. So we're always looking as well for shareable equipment and supplies. Our creation garage has both hardware and software equipment. We have a Stratasys F170 3D printer and a wash station. And we also recently purchased a marketable tech printer. This is also where our virtual clients can come and work, faculty and student innovators, as well as our program participants. We also line up both industry as well as clients to utilize Upstate's core facilities. One of the newest core facilities is the Industry Research Office, directed by Dr. Chris Neville. And Dr. Neville and I have really worked to streamline process. So he is affiliated on campus, faculty and student researchers, core facilities, industry needs, industry interests, and I am at the startup company and we're continually bouncing off ideas, and we're continually helping to match people to resources. Probably most importantly, what we provide is programs and partnerships. We're always expanding the ecosystem for folks. We don't believe in competing. We believe in doing a good job and partnering with others that are doing a good job. We believe that our clients deserve the best from us, and they need to be at the best place at the right time. So we're continually sending them partner opportunities. We're always looking for adding to our partnerships. Dave Mankiewicz mentioned our Kingston Syracuse pathway. We just had our first cross-border pitch competition at the conference held in June, and we actually had one of our clients pitch, Quadrant. We have a medical device innovation challenge, which I'll talk about in a second. We host a pitch competition with our graduates. Our winners this year were Santa Gaspard from Rubitection and Katja Sverdlov from Jellicolite, and you'll hear from Katja in a little bit. We are members of Upstate Capital Association, and we had several clients, such as Triton Bio, pitch at their Invest New York Health program that was held in Buffalo in March. I created the Medical Device Innovation Challenge through the Empire State Development Grant Program. Based on my own background, I manage the clinical affairs team at Welch Allyn, and I've got a lot of colleagues that are currently at Baxter or have moved on to consulting arrangements or have their own company. And they serve as many of our mentors for this challenge. We take applications in the early part of the year. We accept teams and we work one-on-one with those teams with targeted mentors. The teams set up project goals that they want to accomplish during the 6-month program. And very often it is product development, design. They need IP assistance. They're looking for regulatory or quality systems assistance. We have a contract with the Innovation Law Center, another NYSTAR asset. They perform commercialization research for our MDIC teams. Our teams also are lined up. Maybe they need to do some early beta testing or formative evaluations. So we have simulation environments. Maybe they want to talk to nurses or physicians. We also really like to partner with university-based student capstone programs. So currently we have RPI, SU has 2, and Queen's University, and we're always looking for additional engineering capstone programs. So if you have one, let me know if you'd like to accept some of our teams' applications. We like to continually send out opportunities, not only to our MDIC teams, but also to our clients. Those include pitch competitions, other programs like Cornell's Jumpstart, the Fuse Hub, manufacturing opportunities and commercialization opportunities, and we provide a lot of education. So the Concept Commercialization Virtual Series, it was established initially as an education platform for our MDIC program, but with COVID, we went virtual. And the virtual platform works really, really well. We're able to get out to a lot more people. This is a public, open to the public. Some of our programs do provide CE, and this is just a snapshot of some of our upcoming programs. I'm always looking for presenters. So if you would like to present a biotech innovation related topic, let me know. As I noted, our resources and partnerships are extremely important to us. These are just a small few of the most excellent partners that we work with on a routine basis. We're a SUNY campus. We work with Research Foundation for SUNY. We work with our NYSTAR assets, for instance, SUNY Binghamton's CAM and IEEC. Our economic development partner is CenterState CEO. We have the cross-border relationship with Kingston. Our manufacturing resources within New York State are phenomenal. Fuse Hub helps to manage across New York State. And in our region, we have MACNES and TDO. The host of our program today, MedTech, our biomed trade organization within New York State. They have a fantastic Incubator Plus program. So we actually pay for our clients' membership to MedTech. And we're also members with Upstate Capital Association, Bionis, and then several of our innovation and investment organizations that support all of what is being done in New York State. We like to promote our partners events. We put the partner events that are biotech innovation related on our website. And these are just a few that are upcoming. Our next innovation conference, we're looking for exhibitors. The NYSTAR Innovation Summit, that's going to be in Buffalo in October. We usually exhibit there. The commercialization competition, which I just heard, the application is opening in July. We've had several clients apply and be awarded. MedTech hosts an annual meeting in the fall. SUNY Binghamton's Electronic Packaging Symposium is very well attended. They're going back on site in Binghamton. Upstate Capital Association's New York State Business Plan Competition held in the spring, and their Invest New York events as well as other events. And Bionis is hosting their annual meeting in New York City in September where the public can attend. So we're happy to partner. We really love to coordinate. If you have any questions and you would like additional information, just let me know. Sarah or Wynn?
Kathy, thank you. Thank you very much. I think we're going to bring back Andrew and Dave as well. Folks, this was a really terrific overview of opportunities in Central New York and the Mohawk Valley. We've got time for just a few questions. I've received a number of them through the chat. If folks have some additional questions, there's still some time to send one in. Let me start with this one. I'll let perhaps Andrew or David handle this one. One of our viewers asks, what is CenterState CEO doing to support the administration's AM Forward initiative? And perhaps for those who may not be aware, AM Forward is an initiative from the Biden administration to support additive manufacturing, really as an attempt to get a handle on some of the supply chain and other issues that have bedeviled us. But Andrew, David, I'll let you guys handle that.
I'll jump in. So Mike, appreciate that question. And hope things are going well over there at Biotech. I will say that up to this point, we have not been largely engaged in the Additive Manufacturing Forward, AM Forward initiative. But my knowledge of it is such that I would say if there are anyone who's doing that type of 3D printing and looking to get connected into the big five that are responsible kind of for being the facilitators of this, I would say there are 4 of those 5. So it's, for those that are not aware, it's GE Aviation, Honeywell, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Siemens Energy. 4 of those 5 we have strong relationships with, at least through local connections that can probably help push some information requests or other things up the food chain, so to speak. So we'd be happy to have conversations with anyone about that. We have not had any of our members reach out and ask us for assistance on this yet. And so, that would be when we would start rolling up our sleeves on some of these things. So think that there's probably a way we can be helpful to answer the question, but have not dove into that yet, so to speak. So appreciate the question. Hopefully that answers it.
Another question that's come in, and maybe Kathy and actually both David and Andrew as well, from someone who's interested in understanding more about incubators and opportunities in incubators, both in the region and in New York. And I can understand that it may be a bit confusing. Kathy, can you give us some insight? I know a number of the tenants at the CNYBAC have both been in your incubator, but some of them have also spent time in other incubators elsewhere in New York State. Can you help navigate that process for me?
Yep. So as I said, we want our clients to be at the right place, the right fit. For biotech, clients are regulated industry clients. They're going to be in the incubator setting for a lot longer. If they're pharmaceutical based, it could be 10 to 12 years before their product gets to market. So their time to market is longer, and not every one incubator can provide all the services that might be needed. And that's why we try to expand the ecosystem. So for instance, we have a couple clients that have collaborative lab space at University of Buffalo. So they're working there with researchers there and client infrastructure there to be able to take advantage of both our setting as well as their setting. And it's a perfect relationship that works really, really well. And then we also have clients that have moved to the next stage of their innovation, and maybe they're looking for funding, maybe they're looking for additional strategic partners. So some have gone on to or been accepted still as a client here at Harvard. So Sovic, Paul has a Harvard catalyst. Zephyrix was accepted into J&J Labs. We have had companies go to not just New York State, but other states. So it's, again, what does the company need? How can we find them the resources for them and link them up How can we get them to the stage where they're well vetted in order to be accepted into those later stage programs where there may be funding investment availability? The incubator needs to be able to help the client on their pathway in a more streamlined process. Hopefully that answers.
And then this question comes in, and perhaps you'll all get a bit of a chuckle because I know from conversations that I've had with each of you, and certainly with others across the state, this is a common refrain, and it comes in from an entrepreneur who says, "I'm looking for money, and then I'm looking for some more money, and yet again some more money." Investment, he or she, I'm not sure which, says is notoriously hard to get in upstate New York. And I'm wondering whether CenterState CEO or others are addressing this issue.
So, I mean, I'll just briefly say, based on one of the slides that I showed earlier, it's getting easier to get because there's more of it available. It's still not easy to get, right? Easier is not easy. And frankly, a major, one of the most important indicators for us of the success of the incubator and the accelerators and all those programs is the follow-on funding, is the funding that is secured by these companies. And so everything that we do with our virtual tenants and our tenants in this physical space is to help get them ready to be successful in that pitch. The more success we have, the more people are going to pay attention, the more there's going to be individuals with, who manage funds or who have independent wealth that are looking to make those investments are going to take note. We are starting to be known as a innovation ecosystem in some particular verticals, but we hope that as the growth indicators continue to increase over the next 5 years, like they have over the last 5 years, that will become easier and easier, to the point where I don't know that it should ever be easy, right? But to the point where it is not the uphill climb that it has been in central New York and upstate, frankly, for the last 30, 40 years.
Well, listen, I'm afraid we're hitting up against the end of our program. This has been a really fantastic conversation. Andrew Fish, David Mankiewicz, Kathy Durden, thank you for spending some time with us this morning. I want to remind our audience that beginning at 11 o'clock, I'll be sitting down with some leaders from some companies and institutions that you heard about today to talk a little bit more in depth about ways that folks who are interested in investing, in growing their businesses, or starting in the biomed space can connect with some resources. And then in our third hour, you'll have an opportunity to listen to some conversations with innovators, some of whom you've heard about this morning. So Lorenzo D'Amico and Katja Sverdlov. These are really folks who are doing amazing things in this region. It really is an amazing region and an opportunity for growth. Again, thank you to our friends at CenterState CEO. I would encourage those of you who are watching today to reach out to David, to Andrew, to the team at CenterState CEO. They really have their fingers on the pulse of what's going on in this region and have the resources and mostly the enthusiasm to assist you in your endeavors. And of course, Kathy Durden, longtime friend. You're going to hear an awful lot more about Kathy Durden in the next couple of hours. But trust me when I tell you it's all true. It's fantastic stuff. So we hope you'll stick around for the next 2 hours. And one last pitch. If you're interested in the coming weeks, we will be turning our focus to both Rochester, Finger Lakes, and to the Hudson Valley. And as well, our earlier programs can be found on our YouTube channel, where we focused on Buffalo and the Capital Region in the North Country. Again, one last time, Andrew, David, Kathy, thank you so much. Folks, we'll see you in the next hour. Bye now.
Thanks, man.